Have you ever wondered why, when a woman begins to ignore you, most men do exactly what removes her even more? It is as if, in the desperation of drawing her attention again, they made one mistake after another, burying any chance to reverse the situation. But what if I told you that there is a completely different way, a method that not only recovers her interest, but makes her herself take the initiative to look for you? Today, I will reveal you the biggest mistake men make when they realize that they are being ignored, and more importantly, how to turn this situation to their advantage. If you've been through this, you know how frustrating it is. Suddenly that woman who was involved, who responded to her messages enthusiastically, begins to take to answer, or worse, to respond completely. You feel that growing anxiety. Your mind begins to look for explanations, and without realizing it, you act in a way that completely destroys the attraction. The truth is that the attraction is a psychological game, and if you don't understand the rules, it turns out to be just one in the crowd. But calm down, because today I will show you exactly how to turn this game. And the most impressive, most men never realize the mistake they're making. So if you understand this today, it will already be ahead of 90% of them. Does it make sense so far? If so, stay with me until the end, because what I will tell you can completely change the way you deal with women from now on. What's more, I will teach you a technique that will make her herself begin to see you in a completely different way. Now, before we get into what you should do, let's talk about what never to do. Because most men, when you see in this situation, believe they need to solve the problem immediately. And then they make a fatal mistake. They try to recover her attention desperately, whether sending messages in a row, asking what happened, trying to please, or even worse, begging for answers. But I ask you, do you think a man who really has value, who has options, who is safe, would act this way? Or would he simply keep living her life, knowing that the right woman will recognize her value? The problem is that when you react desperately, you give it a subliminal message. I depend on your validation. I need you to notice me to feel good about myself. And that is the death of the attraction. But calm down, because now I will show you exactly how to reverse this situation and make her start to notice you again. And believe me, when you apply it, the game changes completely. And that's exactly why today is the time to change. If you really want to stop being the guy who begs for attention and becoming the man women miss, it all starts with a decision, acting differently. So tell me here in the comments, have you been through such a situation? Have you ever felt that it was doing everything right, but she started ignoring you? What did you do? I want to know your story, because this channel is not just about tips, it's about evolution. We are here to grow together, to understand what really works in relationships, and especially to stop repeating the same mistakes that move women away without us or realize. So already leave your like, because it helps me keep bringing more content like this to you. And if you haven't signed up yet, subscribe now and activate Tininho, because in the next videos, I will teach you even more powerful strategies to attract and maintain the interest of any woman. Now that you have understood the biggest mistake, in the next video, I will show you how to turn the game and make it start to run after you. Want to learn? Then you subscribe and get connected, because this knowledge can completely change your way of relating. The biggest mistake you can make when a woman begins to ignore you is to get into despair and try to recover her attention at any cost. This is almost instinctive. Your brain perceives rejection and goes into a warning state where all you want is to reverse the situation immediately. But guess what? This impulse, this need to solve the problem quickly, is precisely what ends up further away from the woman, and I will explain exactly why. When you start to feel that you are losing control of the situation, the first thing that comes to mind is to try to get closer. You send a message, wait a few minutes, see that she visualized and did not respond. So send another. Maybe try to pull subject again, send something funny, or even ask if she's fine, just to create an excuse to interact. And if she still doesn't respond, he beats that anxiety, and you feel tempted to ask directly, "Something happened. Strange with me? Did I do something wrong?" If any of these phrases have already crossed your head, or worse, if you have already sent something like this, know that you have fallen exactly in the trap that destroys any chance to recover the attraction. Because when you start to show you need, when you are obvious that you are more interested in her than her in you, something changes in the way she sees you. The moment a woman realizes that you are desperate for her attention, her interest plummets. This is because the female attraction does not work like male. While men tend to be interested in a woman more visually and directly, women are attracted to behaviors that indicate value and confidence. And a man who despairs by attention demonstrates exactly the opposite of this. It conveys insecurity, emotional dependence, and deep down ends up giving the message that there are no other options. And if he doesn't have other options, what does that say about him? Exactly. The truth is that most men are sabotaged without even realizing it. They think that insisting, showing more affection, or even trying to prove that they are good enough will make the woman change her mind. But in fact, this only reinforces the feeling that you need her more than her from you. And this imbalance of interest is what kills the attraction. And look at how interesting. Many women don't even do it consciously. They simply feel that the charm broke. Something that once seemed exciting, mysterious, engaging. Now it seems predictable and bland. It's like suddenly the game was too easy. And if there is something that the female mind does not value, it is what seems to be too easy. So now I want you to tell me in the comments, have you ever felt that a woman has suddenly lost interest? Have you noticed this change in her behavior and didn't know what to do? Comment down here, "I will never be needy," if you want to learn to reverse this situation and become a high-value man. Now that you have understood the fatal error that makes any woman lose interest, it's time to change the game. The big question here is not how to convince her to notice you again, but how to become a man who naturally attracts her attention without having to beg for it. And the first step to this is to master the power of detachment. If a woman begins to ignore you, the worst you can do is get in her game and react predictably. Most men, when they feel they are losing a woman, intensifies efforts. They start sending more messages, showing more interest, seeking any excuse to create a connection again. But it only reinforces the idea that you are more invested than her. Now think to me, what happens when something becomes predictable and too easy? This loses value, and that is exactly what happens to the attraction. The difference between a man who arouses desire and a man who is ignored is in the way he deals with these situations. And here comes the law of scarcity. The human being values what seems difficult to achieve, which seems rare. If a woman feels she can have you at any time without any effort, you completely lose its importance to her. But if suddenly she feels that she may be losing you, if you realize that you are no longer there, that your attention is no longer available as before, her mind automatically begins to work against herself. And do you know what is crazy? This happens completely unconsciously. When a man disappears, stops reacting, stops seeking a woman's validation, she begins to ask herself, did he lose interest in me? Did he find someone better? And that's when the game becomes. But there is a crucial detail here. It is not enough just to ignore her and wait for her to come after. You need to give reasons that she feels that she is really losing you. And how do you do that? Simple. Investing in your personal development. Instead of spending your energy trying to regain someone, use this time to grow. Focus on your physique, your mindset, your friendships, your projects. Expand your life in a way that when she notices you again, realize that you are even more interesting than before. Now tell me in the comments, have you applied any of these strategies before? Have you ever seen a woman change her attitude after you stopped running after? Comment here, turned game, if you want to learn more about how to reverse this situation. Now that you have understood the power of detachment and scarcity, the time has come to consolidate this learning and ensure that you never fall into the charging trap when you should value yourself. The fatal error that most men commit is to act on impulse, desperately trying to recover the attention of a woman who began to ignore them. This reaction, although it seems logical, in the heat of the moment, completely destroys any trace of attraction that may have existed. What many do not realize is that the attraction is not based on insistence, but the perceived value. The more a man demonstrates that he is willing to submit emotionally to a woman's indifference, the less interesting he becomes. The key to reversing this game is not to prove to her how much you like it, but to demonstrate, through your actions, that you are a man of high value, someone who does not shake himself by a single woman who has such an interesting and full life, who has no time for emotional games. When you stop running and focus on your own growth, something powerful happens. The woman who once ignored you begins to realize this change and instinctively starts to see you otherwise. Scarcity creates desire, the absence creates curiosity, and a man who doesn't need to begging attention automatically becomes more desirable. If you have arrived here, you are already ahead of most men because most never learn this lesson. They remain trapped in the lack, insecurity, fear of losing. But you don't have to be like them. Now that you know how the game works, it's time to apply it. And for that, I want to know about you. Have you been through this situation? Have you realized that when you stopped insisting, the woman who once ignored you again showed interest? Comment here below, I learned the game, if this record has fallen to you, and if you want more videos about this kind of strategy. And of course, if you want to keep learning how to become a more confident, more attractive, and most valued man, you already subscribe to the channel and activate the bell so you don't miss any video. Here, I bring the best content about attraction, seduction, and relationships, so you never need to beg for attention. Now comment there and tell me your experience.